Yo, yo. What is up? Can you guys hear me coming in here? How are y'all doing this morning on this glorious Thursday? Excited to jam, connect with you guys. Welcome. Oh, mute myself over here. If you are here, say hello in the chat. I'm excited to jam. Got a couple slides here. We're going to be talking about the micro trust funnel. And this is certainly a combination of worlds for today's conversation. Really want to talk about trust on different levels. I want to talk about trust in something greater than ourselves. I want to talk about being able to trust our own internal intuition, and then being able to trust other people and trust, other people. So trust in God, trust in self, and trust in other people. And trust is so vital to the success of your business. And it is a spiritual concept and idea. And so I'm excited to have a conversation and dive in and blend some worlds of spirituality and business. And that's the whole idea on the Profit Portal, this channel, which is new, where I just show up on Thursdays and engage in a conversation to help us turn our insights into income and build soul-aligned businesses that make a big impact and create freedom for ourselves. So that's the vibe. Welcome. If you're here, say hello. Arnold, Evan, Zachary, beautiful. Great to see you. Great to have you here. Before we dive in, and maybe while people are logging in, would love to know if you had to share, like in one word, what you might be present to on this day. What are you present to? If you had to describe it in one word, here we are on a Thursday, May 8th. It's, 10:35 PST for me. If I had to describe one word, it would be expanded. I am feeling expanded in the best way. So what about for yourself? Let me know. Let me get a couple things ready. I would also love for this to be interactive. You can ask questions. You can kind of shape this conversation as we go. I think this is kind of the cool. This is different. Like I've created many courses, and they're usually just kind of one way, and I'm just sitting here in a room talking to a screen. But really love to be able to cater this conversation and engage with you. So in the chats, ask questions, share comments, drop insights, and let's have a good little conversation, shall we? All right, I'm going to connect my iPad. Synchronicitous. Amazing. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Present to the possibility. Beautiful. Beautiful. Nope. Mm-hmm. There we go. All right. So this is pretty cool. AI is so wild. Created this with AI in like number of seconds. I basically sat down and thought about, what do I want to talk about today? And like the high level conversation that I want to have is just this conversation around cultivating self-trust. And actually, maybe before I even just dive into the slide, if I was to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you trust that life is unfolding for you, that you are being given exactly what is needed for you in this particular moment. Scale of 1 to 10. How would you, and maybe like a more like clear way of saying this is like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you trust that there is something greater than you guiding your life behind the curtains of time and space? Scale of 1 to 10. The next question I'm curious is like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you trust or listen to your own intuition? What's your relationship with your internal, intuition, guidance system? Scale of 1 to 10. And then lastly, scale of 1 to 10, how much do you trust others? What's up, Divi? So a couple of weeks ago, we had one of our coaching calls in our community, and it was this Alexander, his partner in our business, was facilitating this meditation. And what started off as just like an idea turned into kind of like a theme in our community, and we started to call it the quantum funnel. I think it might even be inspired by Divi's approach to how she finds clients, but it was essentially like a meditation, a visualization of just visualizing being of service, getting into like an energetic state, and then just seeing people coming towards you, almost like, I think Alexander said, like on a conveyor belt, and that people were just moving towards you. And we started to call this like, this is the quantum funnel, right? There's no landing pages. There's no, hard direct response copywriting or anything like that. It is just, but it's an energetic thing. It's an energetic frequency thing. And I can't tell you how many times like clients have come in the least obvious ways. When I am present, when I am surrendered, when I am aligned, and when I'm open and trusting that the universe has got my back and is guiding me. And so, yeah. So anyways, this is now like a new practice of ours, this meditation, the quantum funnel. And so when I'm talking about today, I'm talking about the micro trust funnel. This is a concept that we've been building out. And today, last concept, and I'll slip into the slides, but I just want you to think about this for a second. Trust is the currency of speed. So your business, your life is only going to work to the degree that you have trust. Right? And the stronger the trust you have in something greater than yourself, the better your life is going to go. The more that you can trust yourself and your own intuition, the less fear, the less anxiety that you'll have about making decisions in your life. And the more that you can trust other people, the faster and bigger and more impact you can have in the world. Right? And so trust is this thing that we can cultivate, that we can develop, that you build. And in business, or like when you are, attracting clients, let's say, the speed at which somebody becomes a client is dependent on how much trust is in that relationship. So there are lots of different ways in your business that you can cultivate more trust. Right? Having congruency in your business, having congruency in your brand is like a simple thing. If like the way that your Instagram looks is also the way that your email looks, that's also the way your YouTube looks. It's like there's a congruency which builds trust, right? Integrity. When you say you're going to show up and do a presentation or you're going to do something and you do it, you build trust. There's also like integrity. Your character has a certain frequency of trust based on like just your own relationship with yourself. Like your words have a certain frequency of trustworthiness based on your own level of integrity and your own relationships. I did something different this week. I decided that I was going to take singing lessons. I don't sing. I have trauma around singing, but I feel like there's something here for me. And it was interesting. The singing coach was like, just shared this little idea how, the body is an instrument, and that every single note and every single human, when they're singing, is sharing such a unique vibration and sound that's like a fingerprint. Because as it comes out of your mouth, it's expressing a certain energy, it's expressing a certain feeling and vibration, and that is landing for people, right? Your character. And then I always love a good Ralph Waldo Emerson quote. It's like, I can't hear what you say because who you are speaks so loudly. And it's like that. I love that because it's like this invisible factor of trust. Okay. That makes sense. Little side rant. Also, sometimes I talk better with my eyes closed. All right. I'm going to dive in. We're going to chat a little bit about this idea of the trust funnel. So, couple big ideas. Actually, I'm just going to go into this. Here's the one thing that I wanted to talk about, really, like this one idea, is that when trust becomes your foundation in God, in yourself, and in your systems, business stops feeling like a battle and starts unfolding like a blessing. It doesn't mean that it gets any easier, but there's like a level of trust that that you know it's on your, like there's nothing else to do. When trust becomes your foundation, you're not really trying to get anywhere except where you are right now. And then you're like, in that moment when you realize that, you already win. It's like the best. So you're not like fighting to get somewhere. You win because you're there. And that's like a whole paradox. I always remember thinking like this idea, I get it differently now, which is like visualizing and manifesting from a space of like already achieving the thing. But it's like, this is the thing. That trust, that awareness that this is it. And you can trust yourself, and there's something greater you can trust. And then that spills over into being able to trust other people. So question for you. Do you, I said this before, and I know I asked 3 questions in a row and I wasn't sure which one was which, but like trusting other people is usually one of the biggest bottlenecks for coaches and for business owners, because it typically bottlenecks people, and they have difficulty hiring other people, letting other people do other tasks, right? This is the and you'll only ever, like, if you don't trust in yourself, and then it's like difficult to trust other people. But the highest level of trust is like when you trust in something greater than yourself, and you trust in God, it makes trusting other people a little easier. So there's 3 kind of like beliefs that I want to see if we can unpack. And that's really just what I wanted to share today. I just want to talk high level about this, idea of trust. So one of the myths, just put a yes or a no if, and maybe not like consciously, like right at the top, but like trust is spiritual fluff. or maybe not even trust, but just like spiritual concepts and ideas don't belong in business because they're not measurable, they're not profitable. You ever have any of that? Like that this is the spiritual stuff that isn't measurable and isn't profitable. Does it matter in business? Is there a place for it in business? I think that it's like I think maybe like a truth, or like what people would not, if it wasn't spiritual, you're just like, well, integrity has a role in business, right? Doing what you said you're going to do. But what if you could like actually measure? Or I guess, like how would you measure that? How do you measure the intangibles of life? And I thought of this metaphor with this dying fish. So I'll just talk about this for a second. So in this scenario, right, like the fish is dying. And it's dying because of the environment that it's in. And the environment that it's in, is dirty, it's murky. And so the fish dies. But so as a coach, as a business owner, there's an entire field that you interact with. It's your ecosystem. It looks like your team. It looks like your family. It looks like, your followers, your email list. There's an entire ecosystem that is the container, that is your fish tank. And if you're not getting new clients, or you're not like sitting in abundance, the problem is probably the ecosystem. Like the no clients, or the no abundance, or the dead fish is a symptom. And it's probably a symptom out of like a lack of alignment. And usually that's like what I find in my own experience, is that it's because I think if I push harder, or I do more, and I have to take full control, in those moments, I'm like not trusting something bigger. And I create this like urgency and scarcity, and it spills into every part of my ecosystem. And so one of the best ways that I've found to create more abundance is like to clean up the ecosystem. And that happens through like alignment, and getting into communication with something higher than myself, and just creating an environment where abundance thrives and opportunity thrives, and people actually want to be in the space. And I'll give you a practical thing that I started doing again. I used to do this all the time, but just like stream of consciousness writing, and in a journal, no tech, just letting the hand go for like 15 minutes without thinking about what's there. And it's literally just like a mental dump. Just like so much shit, just like all of the chatter that that's perpetually there. And just getting it out of my head is like one really great way of clearing internally, like this space. And just being able to observe your own thinking, your own thoughts, and you start to see like, oh, there's some scarcity thinking, oh, there's some fear thinking, and just get it out. And that's one little practice that I've started to do again. And I'm like, oh man, this is an old friend. Love this. Clears out this thought. So that's like on a micro level. But then thinking about it, or like a question is, audit where in your life, where in your world right now, are you operating from force, where you're trying to do it all yourself? And is there a system or a part of your ecosystem that you could nurture? You don't have to take on the whole thing, but just like, is there, and this is a question like in the chats, is there a part of your ecosystem right now where you feel like you're forcing and there's not a lot of trust? Or that that you're like, yeah, you've got your hands and you're forcing things that maybe you could loosen the grip on. That makes sense. Still making sense? Basically, the idea here is that you have an ecosystem, and in that ecosystem, you're either operating from a sense of like trust and faith. And usually it's like, yeah, there's less control, but it always works out better. We just made some big shifts in our business and can notice, I'm like, oh, yeah, there's some fear about that. Comes in. And my natural inclination is to like, I'm going to go force and create I'm just going to go book a bunch of calls and make a bunch of money. But I actively chose differently. I'm like, I trust. And then it's like, okay, from this space, what would I do? I'm going to create something. I'm going to create. And I have like got into like an unprecedented state of creation, and it feels good. And I'm following that. And there's no direct correlation to that translating into clients or anything, but I feel it and know that my ecosystem is clean. The environment for clients to come in droves, not even just like a little bit, in like more than I've ever imagined, is like I'm present to that. And it's not me forcing. Okay, seeing some of these chats here. Yeah. Been really tapped in with you, AJ, Alex Hormozy this month, where the energy is just do more. Nice. It's got me more results this month than the past 4 months combined. Yeah, beautiful. It's like there are seasons. I would just say that there is, well, like doing more. Here, I got this cool feature. Let's pull this up. This is a great question. How do I do this? Bing. Bing. Yeah, James, I'm gonna pull this up. Let's have a conversation about this. Doing is the only thing that's actually going to get you the result. You can get amazing results. Like that's the only thing. So you got to do. Like action is what generates results. And then I would just say that the caveat to that is like very clear and aligned action, because you can take a bunch of action and just be busy and produce results. But what I see happen a lot of the time is like, especially in the coaching space, is coaches end up building a business that they grow to hate because they're just taking the action and doing and never actually stop to ask themselves the question, is this what I really want? And I've been relentless on um, taking action, but also making big decisions. And that requires like a lot of trust where it's like, and it might look like I'm changing the offer, I'm killing, this part of my business, I'm hiring or I'm letting people go. And all of those those bigger decisions are out of or they're because I'm very clear on exactly the kind of business that I want to build. So there's this, life is a giant paradox. So there's like kind of like chicken or the egg, what produce if thinking, I'm going to draw this. It's like a good little, great question. You have systems set up and ads which allow for work to be done without you doing it. So you do recommend people starting out to just get to work instead of manifest. Yeah, I don't manifesting. Okay, let's talk about this. Manifesting is not. I have never been more broke than when I was trying to manifest $1 million. Sat in my room, listening to The Secret, meditating, talking about it would be a good example of like the quantum funnel. But the missing ingredient was any action, right? So I manifestation isn't just sitting on a pillow and not doing anything. Manifestation is a co-creation with God, is a co-creation with the universe. So part of it is knowing, being really clear. I'll tell you, like, this is another thing. I have all of my goals on my phone right in front of me all the time. And at least 2 or 3 times a day, I am looking at these. I know exactly where I'm going. I'm putting the intention into the universe. I know the standards that I have for myself. Like the person who can achieve these goals has to have different standards. I am thinking about these. I am doing these. That is not what produces the result. This is just what gives me clarity so that my brain starts to work to find the problems, and then inspired action, and you take the action. There is an order of things. So basically, like in the beginning, the first thing that has to happen is you have to get clear on what's the problem that you can solve or that you want to solve. For example, here's a new one that my brain is starting to work on. And if you don't set up your mind this way, like you're not using the God-given gift that you have of your mind, right? So it's like the mind loves problems, right? So if you give it a problem, it will then go to work in the unconscious in your everyday to try and solve that problem. So one of the problems that I have, and I want to frame it this way, I want to frame it like this is a real problem, is working more than 4 hours a day. That's not my normal wiring. My normal wiring is at 9 to 5. Like, it's hilarious. I work for myself at home and I have the freedom to do what I want. And yet I still find myself kind of working 9 to 5. It's 8 to 3 and I can go wherever I want. But I'm like, oh, what is that? It's it's just a pattern. It's just a belief. So then I'm like, well, I'm going to make that a problem for myself. It's a problem to work more than 4 hours a day. That's different. Okay. And then it's go to work, brain. Solve that problem. Now, in order to solve that problem, there are skills that would be required, right? That I don't currently have, because if I had them, I wouldn't be working more than 4 hours a day. So then it's okay, well, what are the skills? And also, what are the beliefs that I have that currently... So I'm exploring these, and I'm going to actively be learning skills that give me more leverage, right? It may be systems, it may be team, it may be leveraging AI. It might there are skills that I can develop. And then once you have the skills, then it becomes about systems, right? And then you can take the skills and you can turn them into systems, and then those ultimately allow you to produce the output more efficiently with less of your time. But that's the process. You find a problem, you go about solving the problem, and you develop the skills, and then you turn the skills and you turn those into systems. And you create more freedom and leverage for yourself. But manifestation isn't that's only part one. It's like, this is not manifestation. This is just setting the target. Manifestation is like, let's get to work. That makes sense? Great question. Love it. Yes, Yolanda. The mental dump is so great. Okay. Cool. Let's go into number 2. So this environment of like clearing out the environment, I'll say this too, is like another factor of this is it kind of comes into number 2, but being able to trust yourself and being trustworthy. And a part of this is like having integrity. So if right now your container, your fish tank is not conducive for abundance and sales and freedom, what I would do as well is I would do the stream of consciousness writing that will like have you develop some awareness over the ways that you are thinking, perhaps unconsciously. And then secondly is create an integrity list. So anywhere that you're out of integrity, even if it's a little thing, a parking ticket, a conversation that you haven't had, anything like that, you can clean up those things in your environment, and that cultivates a level of trust with yourself, but also like the universe responds to that. And then that kind of ties into number 2, which is like your intuition. Is intuition reliable for business decisions? I mean, if Divi's still on here, I think she could argue that it's the only reliable source for business decisions. The problem is most of us are not equipped or have not developed that faculty. Bob Proctor always talked about the mind, and he talked about the intellectual faculties that we have. And these are basically, he would have lots of exercises and work to help you strengthen the intellectual faculties of your mind. So it would be things like perception, the ability to see from different angles, or willpower, the ability to focus on one thing, or your memory to have recall. Even the fact that I can recall this, I haven't thought about this concept in many years, but it's like in the memory bank. Reason, the ability to hold 2 opposing ideas in your mind without judging them, but just to reason with them. Imagination. Right, what was I think there's like an Einstein quote where like how he came up with the E=mc². It was like by imagining riding on particles. Imagination is more powerful than knowledge. And but then it also is our intuition, and that's a faculty that can be honed, that can be developed. And I believe, Divi trains on this. Was being able to listen with and connect with and hear and be guided by your own internal intuition. Probably my favorite quote on that is Wayne Dyer. He's like, if prayer is us talking to God, then intuition is God talking to us. So then does it not make sense that you would want to consult your intuition to make business decisions? Would you not want to develop a strong intuitive communication link for all of your business decisions? Welcome back, Divi. Right. So bringing this into your everyday life, the more and more trust that you have, I'll say this as well. Like in the beginning, trust is cultivated And how I've experienced it, maybe you can relate to this. I've had too many experiences now where I've surrendered, allowed, and the universe like provides the craziest outcome or blessing. And I've held intention in my mind, and the outcome manifests because I took action and all the other things as well. But it's like, and every time that's happened, and I've been doing this for 20 years, my belief in something greater and my trust in something greater deepens to the point now that you can't convince me that there's not an incredible, magnificent, powerful force orchestrating beauty like divinely. I'm not even doing anything anymore. I'm just trying to shut up and listen and follow. And trying to listen to my intuition. And the more times in a day that I can ask for guidance, like, yo, Jesus, what's up? Thinking about this. What do you think? Boom. I'll get an answer. It might not be like verbal, but it'll be like, oh, thanks. Great insight. My daughter will say something. But always an answer. %100% is the only way. And there's like the balance, because, and I think like the intuitives, the leaders, there's different roles, and like a business, this is why, this channel exists, or like what I want, the conversation I want to get in, because this has been the conundrum of my life, which is reconciling, how do you operate from universal law in a world that operates and prioritizes man-made law, money, or God, and seeing how they interact with each other, and how to go about like living, knowing that there are universal laws and principles, and then there are like man-made laws and money, and how do you make that work? And in my head, how I see it is that business works with like when there is structure and containment and predictability and integrity and order, that gives way to the freedom for the founder or the creator or the coach to be. This is how I've conceptualized this, is that the point of building the business is to create a sustainable flow of livelihood, of cash flow, of service, of impact, so that you can be free of the survival mechanisms and actually begin to make contact with the internal, ethereal, intangible parts of your soul and operate more and more from that space. Like, I think that's, I don't know, like, to me, that's what the point of building these businesses are. And so I guess like a question or an inquiry that you might ask in this particular moment is, what is your practice for those intuitive check-ins? Do you have one? Is there something that you could do that would just trigger more intention? I often think about this. I had this conversation with my wife, and it was, we were asking each other if about prayer. And I shared with her, it's like in the morning when I wake up, I have this ongoing battle with myself where I wake up and I grab my phone and then I'm like, no, I'm not going to grab my phone. And then I grab my journal and then I go and I will write or journal or meditate or pray. And it's like this, just like an odd battle where my mind naturally wants to grab the phone, but I'm going to choose God. And I don't always get that perfect, but I recognize that like there's a game. And then I'm sitting there and I'm thinking like, maybe 20, 30 minutes, I will actively attempt to make contact with Source and God. And, but then if you think about that, if that was all I did, that's like 20 minutes out of 24 hours. That's like such a small fraction of life that you live in communion with God. And it's good, but what does it look like to live your whole life as a walking meditation, as a walking prayer, as a walking example, embodiment? And so finding ways to remind yourself, to trigger little reminders on your phone is one idea. Little sticky notes on your computer or other places. But finding little ways to, remind yourself. Intuitive check-in. Am I in alignment? Am I going in the right way? Making sense? Okay, cool. Number 3, and it's going to speak to the metaphor, because this is where, a traditional funnel. Actually, don't need to draw a traditional funnel, but if you have trust and faith in something bigger than yourself, and then you cultivate a level of trust of your own intuition and your own internal guidance system, it becomes way easier to trust other people. I think there's probably a correlation where it's like you'll only be able to trust other people to the degree of your own trust in something greater and trust in self. And when you're building the business, at a certain point, you're going to need to trust other people if you want to grow. And I think that that's the point of the business, right? Is to grow. And what happens is, we go back to that other idea where first there is the problem, right? So you choose the problem that you want to help people solve and that you can solve. And then there are the skills that you will acquire. And then there is the systems that you build. And when I say systems, I mean like how you wake up, right? I mean how you make breakfast, how you take care of yourself, how you drop into flow states and get into work, how you talk with people, how you create content, or like all of these things that you do more than once are systems. And the point of them is to be more efficient with your time. And when you have systems, you can then that's the prerequisite. So a lot of people are like, oh, I need to hire like somebody to do all my stuff for me. But if you don't have a system for them to work, it's not going to work that well. So as you mature, as your business matures, and you build a system, it's kind of like a riverbank where the system exists as like you build systems that have water and abundance flow to you. You don't always have to go push and chase, and this is kind of like the mature business. And also, there's like a trust in other people. There's a trust in just different seasons and cycles, right? Like business is not always great. Business sometimes sucks. Oh, what happened there? Where's my mouse? Right? Business sometimes sucks. But if you, I'll give you like a real example here. Okay, so last year, crushed, made $1 million. Never done that before. That was cool. Also, doesn't matter. It's like, had this conversation the other day with a guy on our team, and it's like, you know, at one point you're like, I'm going to make 10 grand, and you do, and you're like, cool, now what? Oh, I'm going to make 20 grand. And you're like, cool, now what? I guess I'll go for 50. Okay, cool, now what? I guess I'll go for 100. Now what? It's like, cool. It doesn't, like, money just comes and then money goes, and at a certain point you realize like, oh, that ain't the game. Or maybe you don't. Like, I think a lot of people don't ever realize that, and they just let the unconscious like perpetually rip to try and make more money. And last year, like if I didn't have a practice of like checking in, reflecting, and optimizing for what I really want, it would be very easy for me to just be like, yeah, I mean, I guess we keep growing. So I guess we hire more people and we spend more money on ads and we grow and build. But if I really check in and like prayed about it and meditate, it's like, why? It's actually not even what I'm trying to do. It's not, it felt out of alignment. And so I knew I had to make some decisions that would not be profitable in the short term. But okay, I have trust in that. So it's like, make the decision, and then our revenue got cut in half. But way more alignment. And you're like, okay, well, this is new. This is different. This is uncomfortable. If I didn't have trust in my own decision-making and intuition and something greater, I would probably be freaking out. And then I would let that scarcity mind go and like try and whatever, not feel that feeling. That feeling is still there, but it's like, but there's so much more context of like, yeah, I'm in alignment. I trust the process. I understand that there's seasons of life or seasons of business growth and expansion, and it's totally normal. And sometimes when you like look online, it's like, or you're working with people, it's like, oh man, they're always up and growing. It's not true. In our business, like something that I got really clear on was, and for a lot of coaches or self-employed professionals, there's typically a decision that you have to make somewhere around to like maybe 150 to 300,000 a year. And it is, do I want to build a company or do I want to build a lifestyle? And until I really made that decision, I was kind of doing both. And it became this bloated thing. And what I had to get really honest with was, I'm not trying to build a Tesla or an Amazon. I'm trying to build a life is actually what I'm trying to do. I want to do other things. Like I want to sing and I want to have freedom and I want to travel and I want to spend time with my kids. We're homeschooling. Like I want to do retreat. There's so many things I want to do. But I've spent so much time just focused on the business. And so I had to get really honest with like, what are my core values? What is it that I really want to do? And then make decisions from there and realize like, oh, yeah, I want a lifestyle business. And I also want to help people who also want the lifestyle business. And so that was like a amazing clarity that once that clarity got clear, the decision making, like everything, you're like, oh, well, if I want that, then that every decision from that clarity became way easier. And actually becomes like way easier to hit the goals that you're going after. And so anyways, we have this concept that we talk about, which is creating a 5% lifestyle. And it comes from the idea, like when I used to be a financial planner, I got to see behind the curtains of most people's finances, and most people's finances were crazy. Like the truth is rarely in the appearance of things. That's what I would say about that. Usually the people who looked the wealthiest were the most in debt and bankrupt, and the opposite was true. The people who looked like bums had loads of money. Like farmers, for example. I worked with like a handful of farmers, and when they came in, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this guy looks homeless." And then they would open up their accounts. You're like, "Oh my gosh, crazy." So I learned in that the truth is rarely in the appearance of things. And it seems like everybody's crashing online and makes millions of dollars, but if you make $500,000 a year, you are in the, and I mean profit. Not revenue. I mean, profit in your genes, after taxes, after all expenses, you are in the top 5% of all people, all income earners in the world, right? Top 5%. And so that is a game. That's the game that I want to play. Because when you look at like the lifestyle that I want to live, that pretty much covers all the boxes. And I really believe that any expert, specialist, value creator can build that kind of business for themselves. And that's what we're like helping people do. And that's what I've decided to focus my efforts and energy on. And it required me making some big decisions that if I didn't have trust, I don't know if I'd be able to make. And so to bring this back full circle, there is in terms of trust, the invitation or the things that maybe you think about this week are, how can I cultivate a deeper trust in something greater than myself? A good way of thinking of that is like, how can I clean up the ecosystem that I exist in? Maybe by restoring integrity, maybe by like doing conscious journaling, getting like taking a mind dump, right? In order to create a better, more clean, more trusting ecosystem. Secondly is how can I trust my own intuition? And that might literally just look like putting little reminders around your world to check in and ask yourself, literally just, I don't know, how I'm thinking of it is if Jesus is the CEO or God is the CEO of the business, then it's just like, let's consult him more often, or them, or whatever that divine, intuitive part of you, just check in more and find little ways to remember that. Maybe an alarm on your phone, maybe a sticky note. And if you do those two things, then the third one becomes a lot easier, which is trusting other people. And the one last kind of framework around all of this is, in order to build that top 5% lifestyle, in order to cultivate more of that trust with something greater and with yourself, then it's being the courageous leader who's like, I'm going to take that on. And the minute you do that, you embark on the hero's journey where you're going to fight some demons. You're going to have to confront yourself, other people. But that whole process, and you might already be in the belly of the beast at this point. You might be, we're all maybe at different stages on the journey. Wherever you're at, that whole process is designed to help you designed to help you cultivate trust in something greater, trust in yourself. Yeah. So if you're on that journey, congrats. Thanks for being here on this call with me. Would love to know if you're still listening. If there was something that stuck out to you, like what'd you learn, what'd you catch, just drop it in the chat. What's something that you could take away? What's something that you might think about this week? What's something that might be useful? I am genuinely curious, but I always say that it's more so for you, writing it down, just like documenting it, saying it in the chat, like this one thing, that will help it stick. So if you want to capture something, claim something from this chat that we had today, drop it in the comments. And I know that going on that hero's journey is scary, bold, or can be. And I love the fact that it's like what might initially urge you to go into the hero's journey of like creating a 5% lifestyle, making $500,000 a year, like that kind of thing, inevitably becomes irrelevant. Maybe not irrelevant, but secondary to the process of like who you become and the connection and the faith that you develop in the process. So thank you. Appreciate you all. I'll be back next week. And I'll see you guys later. All right. Peace out.